This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Just imagine the scene that a person goes up to Shamayim and they say, all right, bring in the mitzvahs, bring in the aveiros. So all these big buses come in, all the wonderful mitzvahs and the words of Torah and the words of tefillah that he said in this world. And it's weighing down the scales on one end. It's all really heavy, it's going all the way down over there. And then they say, all right, bring in the other side, bring in the aveiros. And all of a sudden these busloads of aveiros start piling in, mamish, one after the other, just no end to how many buses all of a sudden are coming along. And you're wondering, like, what is going on over here? Like, I never did that aveira never did that one, I never knew that, I don't know who that person is. What on earth is that aveira? Like, you start looking and thinking, what is going on over here? I never did half of these aveiros, what are they showing this to me? What are they putting it on my scale for? So, you'll say, what's going on? They'll say to you, very simple. These aveiros are not the aveiros that you actually committed, but these aveiros are the people that watched you do something. They may have seen you talk in shul. They may have seen you, not make a bracha with kavana on your food. They may have seen you do lots of things, talking about business on Shabbos. I don't know what. They may have seen you do a lot of things. And they said, all right, we'll do the same thing. So these aveiros are actually not yours, but they've become yours because they were done by people that watched you. So you'll turn around and say, Salicha, I have a very simple thing. There's a halacha called don Kashrus. They're meant to be done me Kashrus. They should have judged me favorably. Why are these people looking at me and saying he did something wrong? And they should have assumed you probably did something right. He's a good guy. I'm an honest guy. Come on, why'd they judge me badly? There's a halacha don Kashrus, right? So they say, oh yes, that's right. But it goes as follows. The Gemara tells us, Chazal tell us, that if a person, when he's on this world, and you've done other people a Kashrus, and you judge other people favorably, then and only then will the Rebbeinu Shalom judge you favorably when you get up there. So if anybody here wants this wonderful Eitzah of being Don Kashrus by the Rebbeinu Shalom, and which of us don't need this? I speak for myself, right? Which of us don't need the Rebbeinu Shalom to be done us Kashrus? So it tells us the Gemara in that case, it has to be the way that when we're in this world and we look at others, we have to start judging people favorably. Rabbi, so I want to spend the next few minutes going through some of the hashkafa, some of the halachas of Don Kashrus. I believe this is extremely important. In fact, I'll say like this. First of all, it's actually a scary statement. Very, very scary. The Ma'orei Naim in Parshas Chukas writes as follows. He says that when you look at somebody else, you're actually looking at a mirror. You're actually seeing a reflection of your own self. And if you look at somebody else and something that he does bothers you, because you're looking at him and he leaves shul early, so it bothers you. Not because he's leaving early, because you want to leave early, and it bothers you that he's leaving early and me, that tzaddik, is staying till the end, right? Or for example, it bothers you that someone's doing something. It bothers you. Says the Ma'orei Naim, it's a mirror. You're just looking at yourself. You're seeing the characteristics that you have on your own personal level, on yourself, which you make 4,000 excuses for and say, it's okay, I don't really mean it, I'm having a bad day, I'm allowed. But when it happens to somebody else, all of a sudden, he's got to be the perfect guy, right? Because if he does it, he's going to be perfect. But if I would do it, I've got to make excuses, and I'm okay, I had a bad day, I didn't sleep good last night, I have all the excuses in the world. Rabbi say, what we have to learn is that when we look at other people doing things that maybe are not a 100%, we also have to make these excuses. Let me tell you something very interesting. There's a Shloah Kodesh. The Shloah Kodesh writes in the Sefer Shara Oisius, says the Shloah Kodesh like this: Ben Odom Lechaver, as we know, is one of, if not the most important thing that we have to be mesaken, and we have to fix up on this world, right? Half the luchos is Ben Odom Lechaver, right? That's what we have to do, helping and looking towards other people. So the Shloah Kodesh writes that many of the mitzvahs of Ben Odom Lechaveroi cannot actually happen unless you perfect this one first. In other words, the Shloah Kodesh is telling us that if you want the first and foremost way of helping people, of being nice to people, Ben Odom Lechaveroi, acting towards people nicely, being a nice person, everything, it all begins right over here with Don Kashrus. In fact, Rav Pam Zatzal, Rabbi Reisman once quoted Rav Pam to say a beautiful thought. He said, Imagine if a person has strep, right? You have a bad throat, you have strep, what do? So you have two options. Option number one is I can numb the pain. How do you numb the pain? You take a painkiller and you numb the pain and then you'll be okay, right? So that's wonderful. I don't feel the pain anymore. But that doesn't heal the strep. If you want to heal the strep, you want to get rid of the infection, take antibiotics. Antibiotics will kill off the infection and that will heal you. Whereas taking a painkiller will just rid you of the pain. Said Rabbi Zatzal, a beautiful thought. Rabbi said, we really have to take this to account. This is something we have to work on every day of our lives. Rabbi Zatzal said as follows. He said, when a person speaks Lashon Hara, so we know Lashon Hara, everybody learned the Chofetz Chaim, that speaking Lashon Hara, speaking badly against other people is probably the worst thing that a person can do. It causes the destruction on a daily basis, the continual destruction, so to speak, of the Beis HaMikdash, and every single day of our lives, Kol Zman the Beis HaMikdash not here. It's terrible, Lashon Hara. So if you want to treat Lashon Hara, said Rapam, what do? You learn Hilchos Lashon Hara, you learn the Chofetz Chaim, that's what you do, right? But that just gives you the painkiller. That just takes away the pain. If you want to go to the root of the problem, if you want to find from where does this stem from, where is this necessity to talk badly against somebody else, it comes from Don Kashrus. Because the very first thing that happens when you see somebody else, you look at him and you start judging. He's doing this wrong. That guy's doing an aveira. That guy doesn't know the halacha. That guy's doing this. All of a sudden, and you know what can lead to? I have a list over here of 10 things. Ben Odon lechaveiroi. Whether it's hatred, right? It's mamish one of the says adibus. Whether it's a bittul mitzvahs of hafta lerecha kamocha because you're not going to like him anymore. You're not going to do chesed with him anymore. You're going to battle the mitzvah of chesed. You're going to take revenge or bear a grudge, right? You're going to fight with him. Lashon hara, rechilas, oinas, dvarim, embarrassing, maybe even stealing. All these things come from one, and that is Don Kashrus. If we learn and know how to perfect this midah, if we would figure out how when we look at somebody else, the first thing that comes to our mind is, he's probably okay. He had a bad day, he had a bad, whatever it may be. You know how this guy, that you get in the bus, and you're waiting there in the rain for the bus, and the bus driver comes past, and he sort of just drives straight past, I've been waiting here 20 minutes for the bus, how can you do that? A chutzpah, how can you, you're starting, all the words come flowing out about the bus driver. Did you think for a minute that maybe, I don't know, the windows are steamed up, he didn't see you? Or maybe, I don't know, someone's screaming at him at the back to do something and he's busy with that and he didn't see someone's... There could be loads of things. It's about practice. We have to learn to start practicing to be Don Kashrus, to judge other people favorably, and you know something? It will make our life a lot easier. Because once we learn this trait, this midah, this wonderful idea of Don Kashrus, our whole life will be different. Because we'll look at life in a positive way. We'll stop the Lashon Hara, we'll stop the hatred, we'll do chesed, we'll love everybody. You know what achdus that brings? You know Mashiach will come, the Beis HaMikdash, everything. You can't imagine such a thing. In fact, the Gemara tells us as follows. There's a famous Gemara in Brachas Dafid Beis Amud Beis. Says the Gemara, and Rabbi say, which person doesn't want this bracha? Says the Gemara, Brachas Yud Beis Amud Beis. There are 3 people HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves extra special. Now, obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves everybody, but extra special love comes from Hashem if you're one of 3 people, right? And one of them, without going into the other 2, one of them is a person that's done the Kashrus. If you are a person that's done other people the Kashrus, you judge favorably. When you see someone doing something, you're looking in a positive way, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you the extra special love. Now, you tell me which person wouldn't want such a thing. In fact, the Shloah Kodesh writes that you find a special favor in Hashem's eyes for a person that's done the Kashrus. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Chav Zayin, that we started with, right? I told you a Gemara. It wasn't a story, it was a Gemara. The Gemara says that if a person judged other people favorably, then in Shamayim they will also judge him favorably. The Maral writes, it's Midah Keneged Midah. Okay, we're not going into all the lomdas at this moment of time. The Vilna Gaon has a Sefer Gul Keser Rosh, where he writes, how do you do this? How do you do this? Don Kashrus, it's so difficult, so hard. You look at somebody, you see them, he's doing something wrong, and what am I meant to be thinking? So the Vilna Gaon writes, and he says that if a person has an enemy, you should start thinking in your heart they're total tzaddikim. You have to put this into your heart. He's okay, he's a tzaddik, he's better than me, he's better than me than this, he's better than me than this. That's how it is. A person has to start putting this midah in his heart. Says the Vilna Gaon, that's the only way that a person can actually get to this madrega, to this level of Don Kashrus. And in fact, I must tell you, there's a Rambam in Perishim Mishnayos in Ovis. in Perek Aleph, where the Rambam writes something also that's extremely scary. And Rabbi said, I'm not here to scare you, but we just have to know these things. You can't go through life without knowing these things and say, oh, I never knew, because now you know, right? Now you got no excuse. Says the Rambam, Baruch Hashem, you came today. Says the Rambam that you have to know, Don Lechavskos, by the way, falls under the category of those things that you generally don't do tshuva on. Now we know we like to do tshuva on everything. Comes Rosh Hashanah, comes Yom Kippur, we try and do tshuva for everything, al chait and al chait and al chait and al chait and everything we can think of. But says the Rambam, right, and we'll talk about this maybe a different time in Rosh Yeshiva when we talk about Shmiras Einayim. But the Rambam says that Don Lechavskos is one of those things you just don't do tshuva. You know why you don't do tshuva on? Because I didn't do anything wrong. What did I do? If I spoke Lashon Hara, I spoke Lashon Hara. If I stole, I stole. But what did I do? I walked past the guy, I thought badly of him, and I continued on my way. And my day was a great day. Like, well, what did I do? I didn't do anything, right? I didn't cause him any harm. I didn't cause him any damage. He'll get a good shidduch. He'll get parnasa. Like, what's it going to do with me? The answer is, says the Rambam, that's the reason why Don Lechavskos is one of those hard things to do tshuva. Because you don't think you did anything. But you did. You ruined in your brain someone else's esteem, someone else's a character in your heart. No, you don't have to do that. You have to do tshuva between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to do tshuva, of course, and you should do tshuva. But the Rambam is saying, not you cannot do tshuva. Of course you can. But he's saying it's a difficult thing to do tshuva because you don't even realize you did anything wrong. Let me tell you a Gemara. There's a Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Chav Zayin, a wonderful Gemara we have to learn from Chazal. Says the Gemara, Kuf Chav Zayin, look it up. There was a fellow who was working for 3 years at a person. He was working for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, it was Erev Yom Kippur. He went over to the boss, said, boss, I love you very much, but I'd like to visit my family. I'd like to go back to my family. I haven't seen him for 3 years. I've been working with you for 3 years straight. I'd like to go to my family, please. Can I have my wages? Let me come back before Yom Tov, and I'll present my family with all the money that I've made from the last 3 years. So the boss turns to him and says, I'm terribly sorry. I just don't have any money for you. He says, you've got no money? All right, Beseda. Have you got any property maybe? Maybe some land or something, and I'll sell it, make an investment, and I'll make some money, and I'll bring it back. I'm sorry, I've got no land. I've got no land. Have you got any animals at least? Maybe give me some animals and I'll sell them on the market and get some money. No, I've got no animals. You have fruit? You have maybe fruit, vegetables, something, produce, anything. No, I have nothing for you. So the man shrugs his shoulders, turns around and says, all right, what can I do? And he goes back home, empty-handed. 3 years of work, nothing to show for it. It comes Motzah Sukkos, the Gemara tells us. Motzah Sukkos, says the Gemara, all of a sudden they get a knock on the door, and there's 3 wagons. One with food, one with drinks, and one with all sorts of delicacies, the Gemara says. And the boss is standing there and he gives him his wages as well, and he says, let me ask you a question. When you came to me, and you said after 3 years, a very legitimate, thing to say, 3 years of work, I think you're entitled to your wages. You came to ask for your wages, and I said, I've got no money. What were you thinking at the time? Rabbi says, Chazal, this is a Gemara. So he says, I was thinking at the time, you probably had a good investment, an opportunity for a business. You took all your money, you probably put it into an investment, so you had no money. He said, okay, and what were you thinking when I told you that I've got no land? So he said, well, I was figured out that you probably rented it out to other people to make some money, so you got no land. I said, okay, what did you think when I told you got no animals? Well, you probably lent them out, you probably rented them, whatever. And what do you think? And it went on and on and on and on. And every single time he said, what were you thinking? He said a legitimate excuse of what probably happened. And the fellow said, Lashon Gemara, I swear to you that everything that you said is exactly true, 100% emes. That's exactly what happened. And I give you a bracha that just like you were done the Kav Schus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should have done the Kav Siu. Now what's Chazal telling us? What do we learn from this Gemara? We learn from this Gemara a tremendous thing. And that is we have to learn when we look at somebody else, it's not just, alright, he's probably alright. But you have to make an excuse. That means you have to dream up maybe, even if it's not 100%, doesn't fit in. But you dream it up in a way that he's probably doing the right thing because of. I'll give you an example. You lose your wallet, right? Now, when you lose your wallet, you don't only look in the obvious places. You can look in the non-obvious places. Now, what are you looking in the non-obvious place? Like under the bimmer. I never put my wallet over here. I never walked over here. Like, what are you looking there for? The answer is when you lost your money, you lost your wallet, you will go to the most crazy places to try and find it, even if I never walked in there before. It's Chometz on Pesach, right? We'll go to the crazy extremes because maybe, possibly. This is how it goes with Don and Chavskos. That's what Chazal are telling us. Chazal are telling us that a person has to learn to make excuses for other people just like you make an excuse for yourself. You have to learn to do this and practice and practice and practice. You know, when the guy walks in, the bocher walks in to yeshiva lunch, and there's only 10 schnitzels there, and the guy's grabbing 2 schnitzels, and you're looking to yourself, what are you doing? You know, there's enough schnitzels for everybody. What are you grabbing for? Did you think for a minute that maybe, again, I don't know, but maybe the guy came from a family of 12 children, where in his house there was only 10 schnitzels for 12 children, first come, first served, and by him, he grew up with grabbing, like Nebuch, the poor guy. And did you think that for a minute? That guy didn't invite you to the bar mitzvah. Oh, I know, Ma'aseh Shehoya, 10 years after the chasana, he still hasn't talked to the fellow because he didn't invite me to the wedding. Chutzpah, I'm such a good friend, he never invited me. Did you think for a minute that maybe it got lost? Did you think for a minute that maybe the mail, maybe there was a strike, maybe he forgot, it could be all sorts of things. But that's our obligation. Our chiyuv, tells us Chazal, is to walk around, and when we see someone doing something, and we would excuse ourselves if we did it, to do the same thing to somebody else. And you have to go very far, but you're not meant to be stupid. For example, let me just give you the 3 madrigas very quickly because we have to finish. Number 1, halacha lemaisa, halacha she. We have to go halacha lemaisa. The Gemara tells us as follows: if a person's a tzaddik, you see a rebbe, you see a rov, you see a talmid chacham, you see a tzaddik doing something. There's no shaila in the world, right? He's in McDonald's. There's no shaila. He's doing something right. He probably is desperate for the bathroom, or he needs a Coca-Cola because he's got some kind of tablet he needs to swallow. There could be anything. There's no shaila. It's a chiyuv min haTorah, min midoraisa. Just like shaking the lulav on the first day of Sukkot, and just like eating matzah on the first night. This is all doraisa. Every tefillin, all of this, same thing. I have a chiyuv to judge him in a positive manner. If he's a Rasha, however, a Rasha means someone that doesn't care about doing such an Aveira, so then we are allowed to actually, for example, I'm not mechuyev to think someone, I'm allowed to know that someone's doing something wrong. Chazal don't want us to assume that no one did anything wrong. Otherwise, a person's driving a car on Shabbos. Yeah, well, he's probably, you see the guy driving a car on Shabbos. He's not going to the hospital. There's no emergency. Like, what's he doing? So the answer is, Chazal don't want us and don't mechayev us and obligate us to go along and think the guy's, he's probably okay. No, if someone's a Rasha, the halacha is, you're not mechuyev to judge him favorably. However, if he's a Beinani, right? If he's a middle guy, right? A normal guy, he tries to do mitzvahs, he learns Torah, he tries not to do Averis, so then the halacha is, it's a suffix in many cases. In other words, it looks like he's doing something bad, but it also looks like he's doing something good in that case. So the halacha is, it's a suffix, and you have to judge him favorably. No, we're talking about a guy that you know he's a good Jew. He's not a Rasha, he's not a tzaddik, he's a normal, average, good Jew. So the halacha over there is you have to be done in Kashrus.
How do you get somebody to Rasha?
Sorry? No. When the guy's a Machal Shabbos, but for Hesya, every single Shabbos morning, so then we know that he's a Rasha. I don't know if you've done in Kashrus him. That's right.
He doesn't know better. He was born from
Oh, you could do that also. We're talking about when he knows. I know he grew up from. He was Pyrik oil. I know for a fact this guy knows Hilchos Shabbos. He knows he's not interested. That's how it goes. Whatever it is. In a Donikav Skus Rabbi Sai, anyway, whatever it is. Ooh, a hot topic. Wonderful. Let me.
That's a Rasha.
Okay, Rabbi said we just have to finish, but let me just finish with this. Rabbi said Chazal tell us the famous Mishnah, and we have to believe this, we have to live this way. Never judge somebody till you get to their place, which means we can never start judging someone of where he's coming from because we don't know where he's coming from. Chazal are teaching us we have to be done the Kav Skus. Where Rabbi said if you want to get up to Shemayim and they're going to tell you, everything is okay, it's because you were done the Kav Skus. So start training yourself now to be done all of other people the Kav Skus, and when you do that, the Rabbani Shalom Mida Keneged Mida will Be'ez Hashem be done the Kav Skus, you as well. Freitag and Chanukah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.